The story of Israel and Iran is one of the most dramatic reversals in modern history. These two nations, once bound by mutual interests and a sense of shared destiny, have become symbols of deep-seated rivalry and suspicion in the modern Middle East. Once close friends and strategic partners, they are now bitter enemies. Their relationship has shifted so dramatically that it's hard to imagine a time when they stood side by side, working together for common goals. To understand today's headlines, missile strikes, threats of war, and constant tension, we need to look back at the roots of their relationship. The present-day hostility is only the latest chapter in a much longer, more complex story. There was a time when these two countries worked together, shared secrets, and saw each other as essential allies in a hostile region. Their cooperation was not just political, but deeply strategic, involving intelligence sharing and economic ties. This history is the foundation of the conflict that now defines the Middle East. The echoes of their former alliance, and its collapse, still shape the region's politics and fuel ongoing disputes. Political changes, new ideas, and shifting power turned a strong friendship into a dangerous rivalry. The rise and fall of leaders, revolutions, and shifting alliances all played a role in this transformation. The Cold War, Arab nationalism, and most importantly, the Iranian Revolution all played a part. Each event added new layers of complexity, pushing the two nations further apart and setting the stage for decades of conflict. Before 1979, Israel and Iran were united by common enemies and shared goals, cooperating on everything from military technology to oil. Their partnership was a cornerstone of regional stability, even as the world around them changed rapidly. But that alliance shattered, leaving a legacy of mistrust and animosity that continues to grow. The fallout from their break has rippled across the Middle East, affecting countless lives and shaping international relations. To understand how this happened, we need to travel back to a very different Middle East, a world where alliances were fluid, and the future of the region was anything but certain. After World War II, the world was reshaped by new borders and shifting alliances. In 1948, Israel was created, emerging from the ashes of conflict and the hopes of a people seeking a homeland. The Declaration of Independence was a moment of triumph, but it also marked the beginning of a new struggle for survival. Almost immediately, Israel found itself surrounded by hostile Arab neighbors, many of whom rejected its existence and launched military campaigns to drive the new state into the sea. The threat was existential, and Israel's leaders knew they needed allies to survive in a region where they were vastly outnumbered. Isolated from its neighbors, Israel looked beyond the Arab world for support. It reached out to non-Arab countries on the region's periphery, Iran, Turkey, and Ethiopia, nations that also felt the pressure of regional rivalries and sought partners to strengthen their own positions. Iran, under Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, was a key U.S. ally in the Middle East. The Shah viewed Israel as a valuable partner against the growing influence of Soviet-backed Arab states, and both countries shared a desire to modernize and secure their regimes. The Shah's Iran was secular, ambitious, and focused on rapid modernization. Western influences were visible in Iranian society, from fashion to education, and the government was less concerned with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict than with building a strong modern nation. In a bold move, Iran became one of the first Muslim-majority countries to recognize Israel, setting itself apart from the rest of the Islamic world. This decision was controversial, but it reflected the Shah's pragmatic approach to foreign policy. The alliance between Israel and Iran was not based on shared culture or religion, but on mutual strategic interests. Both countries saw the value in cooperation, even if it meant defying regional norms and facing criticism from their neighbors. In a region dominated by Arab states, both Israel and Iran felt like outsiders. They viewed the rise of pan-Arabism and the spread of communism as direct threats to their security and independence, pushing them closer together. Their partnership was practical and mutually beneficial. Israel gained access to vital resources, intelligence, and oil, while Iran benefited from advanced Israeli technology, military expertise, and a reliable pro-Western ally in a turbulent region. For over 3 decades, this unlikely but pragmatic friendship helped both nations navigate the complexities of the Cold War, secure their interests, and carve out a place for themselves on the world stage, even as the tides of history continued to shift around them. The Israel-Iran alliance before 1979 was robust. especially in military and intelligence cooperation. Mossad and Savak shared intelligence on Soviet-backed and Arab nationalist threats. Israel supplied weapons and training, modernizing Iran's military. After the 1967 Arab oil embargo, Iran secretly supplied Israel with oil, keeping its economy and military running. In return, Israel provided Iran with agricultural technology and expertise. Israeli companies worked on major projects in Iran, and trade flourished. Direct flights connected Tel Aviv and Tehran. Israeli experts were welcomed in Iran. While military ties were secret, economic and cultural exchanges were more open. This period was a golden age of cooperation, breaking Israel's isolation and giving Iran Western support. The partnership was a clear example of strategic pragmatism in a volatile region. The 1979 Iranian Revolution ended the Israel-Iran friendship overnight. The Shah's secular pro-Western monarchy was replaced by Ayatollah Khomeini's Islamic Republic. Khomeini's regime saw the Shah's ties to the US and Israel as betrayal. The US became the Great Satan, Israel the Little Satan, symbols of Western corruption. All official ties with Israel were severed. The Israeli embassy was handed to the PLO. Iranian passports declared Israel illegitimate, and decades of cooperation vanished instantly. The revolution marked a total break, driven by ideology, not gradual cooling. Israel was now seen as an enemy of Islam and a target for removal. This new ideology set the stage for decades of conflict and confrontation. The revolution replaced pragmatic cooperation with ideological confrontation. Iran's new leaders aimed to export their revolution and support oppressed Muslims, making the Palestinian cause central. Israel became not just a rival but a theological and existential enemy. Iranian leaders used uncompromising language, calling Israel a cancerous tumor to be eradicated. This rhetoric denied Israel's right to exist and cast the conflict as a struggle between Islam and injustice. Iran's regional strategy shifted to building an axis of resistance, a network of proxies to confront Israel and the US. The goal: surround Israel with hostile forces and avoid direct war. For Iran, opposing Israel became a core part of its revolutionary identity. This deep ideological opposition has fueled an ever-escalating cycle of conflict. After 1979, Israel and Iran fought a shadow war, indirect, covert, and deadly. Both sides used proxies, assassinations, cyber attacks, and covert operations to strike at each other. Iran's main tool was the axis of resistance, especially Hezbollah in Lebanon, which it armed and trained. Iran also supported Palestinian groups like Hamas and Islamic Jihad, creating a two-front threat for Israel. Israel responded with airstrikes in Syria and covert operations inside Iran, targeting nuclear scientists and facilities. This proxy warfare turned Lebanon, Syria, and Gaza into battlegrounds. The shadow war defined their conflict for decades with no clear end in sight. It was a deadly game of cat and mouse fought in the shadows. The axis of resistance is Iran's main weapon against Israel and the West. It's a loose coalition of nations and militant groups, supported by Iran's Revolutionary Guard. Hezbollah is the most powerful member with a vast arsenal and political influence in Lebanon. Iran built up Shia militias in Iraq and Syria, securing a land corridor to Lebanon and propping up Assad's regime. The network extends to Yemen, where Iran supports the Houthis, giving it reach to the Red Sea and Arabian Peninsula. This network lets Iran wage a multi-front, low-cost conflict against its adversaries. It fundamentally changes the military balance in the region. The axis of resistance is now a central feature of the modern Middle East. For decades, Israel and Iran fought indirectly, waging a shadow war through proxies, covert operations, and diplomatic maneuvering. Each side sought to undermine the other's influence across the Middle East, but always stopped short of open warfare. But in late 2023, the conflict broke into the open, shattering the uneasy balance that had held for years. Hamas's attack on Israel triggered a massive Israeli campaign in Gaza, unleashing a wave of airstrikes and ground operations that shocked the region. Israel's response quickly expanded, targeting not just Hamas but a broader network of Iran's proxies in Lebanon and Syria. Israel shifted from a strategy of containment to one of direct rollback, determined to dismantle Iran's regional influence by force. Israeli jets struck deep into Syria, hitting Hezbollah and Iranian assets, while border clashes intensified in Lebanon. The fall of Assad's regime in 2024 sent shockwaves through the region, weakening Iran's network and leaving its allies exposed. Feeling cornered, both Iran and Israel escalated to direct attacks, abandoning all pretense of plausible deniability. In June 2024, Israel launched daring strikes inside Iran, targeting nuclear and military sites in a dramatic escalation. Iran retaliated with ballistic missiles, striking near Tel Aviv, the first direct state-to-state attack between the two nations in modern history. The shadow war was over, open conflict had begun, with both sides now openly trading blows. In 2025, Israel launched even more strikes, targeting Iranian infrastructure and military positions with increasing intensity. Iran countered with its own missile barrages, locking both countries in a relentless cycle of direct attacks and reprisals. The old rules were gone. Both sides crossed red lines that had once seemed unthinkable, with leaders making ever more aggressive statements. The risk of a full-scale regional war, possibly drawing in global powers like the US or Russia, is now higher than ever before. The Middle East has become far more dangerous and unpredictable, with millions of lives hanging in the balance as the world watches anxiously. Israel and Iran's journey from allies to enemies shows how politics and ideology can reshape nations. The 1979 revolution replaced pragmatic partnership with deep-seated existential conflict. Today, Israel sees Iran's nuclear ambitions and proxies as existential threats. Iran sees Israel as an illegitimate colonial outpost. The events of 2023 to 2025 set a new, dangerous precedent: direct military confrontation. The conflict now directly involves both nations' territories, raising the stakes for the entire world. Deep mistrust and ideological opposition make compromise nearly impossible. As long as these regimes and worldviews persist, the rivalry will continue. The story of Israel and Iran is a tragic lesson in how history can turn friends into enduring foes.